The rain stung my face like 1,000 tiny needles. But I didn't care. My fingers, numb from the cold, sifted through the dumpster's slimy contents behind the diner on 47th Street, searching for anything salvageable: food, clothes, maybe a half-decent pair of shoes. This was my life now. And the irony wasn't lost on me. Ethan Carter, once a dreamer with a pen and a plan, now a ghost haunting New York's alleys. I hadn't always been this way. 5 years ago, I had a tiny apartment in Brooklyn, a job writing jingles for a small ad agency, and a boyfriend who made my heart race every time he smiled. Julian Hayes. God, just thinking his name felt like a punch to the gut. We were 22, reckless, and so in love it hurt. But love doesn't pay the bills. And when Julian's dreams of corporate success clashed with my stubborn refusal to sell out, we imploded. He left for a finance job in Chicago, and I stayed, chasing a novel that never materialized while my life unraveled. Tonight, the alley reeked of rotting vegetables and regret. I pulled out a soggy bagel, inspecting it under the dim street lamp, when a shadow fell over me. Ethan, a voice said, low and disbelieving. I froze. That voice, smooth, warm, with a hint of a southern drawl, hadn't changed in 5 years. My heart lurched as I turned, and there he was, Julian, standing in a tailored navy suit, his dark hair slicked back, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. The man I'd loved, the man who'd broken me, was staring at me like I was a ghost. Julian. My voice cracked, barely audible over the rain. He stepped closer, his polished shoes splashing in a puddle. His hazel eyes, once so familiar, scanned Mimi, torn jacket, my unshaven face, the bagel still clutched in my hand. Shame burned through me, but I couldn't look away. What are you doing here? I managed. I could ask you the same thing, he said, his tone soft but laced with something heavy: pity, maybe, or guilt. I'm in town for a conference. I saw you from the street. He gestured vaguely toward the diner, where warm light spilled through the windows. Ethan, why are you? Don't, I snapped, cutting him off. Don't you dare ask me that. The words came out sharper than I meant, but I couldn't bear his questions. Not when I was standing knee-deep in trash, and he looked like he owned half the city. I turned back to the dumpster, pretending to focus, but my hands trembled. Ethan, please. His voice was closer now, and I felt the warmth of his hand hovering near my shoulder, not quite touching. Let me help you. I laughed, bitter and hollow. Help me. You're a little late for that, Jules. The old nickname slipped out, and I cursed myself for it. I faced him again, rain dripping into my eyes. What do you want? To gawk at the guy you left behind? I'm fine. I don't need your charity. His jaw tightened, but he didn't back down. I'm not here to gawk. I never stopped thinking about you. The confession hung between us, raw and impossible. My chest ached, memories flooding back late nights in our cramped apartment. His laughter, the way he'd kiss me like I was the only thing that mattered. But that was a lifetime ago. Yeah, well, you had a funny way of showing it, I said, my voice breaking. I wanted to hate him, to shove him away, but his eyes held me captive, full of something I couldn't name. Regret. Love. Before I could process it, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, pressing it into my hand. The paper was crisp, embossed with gold: Julian Hayes, CEO, Horizon Ventures. Come to my office tomorrow, he said, his voice steady but urgent. I'm starting a new project, and I need a writer. Someone with heart. Someone like you. I stared at the card, rain smudging the ink. A job. From Julian. It felt like a cruel joke, but his gaze was earnest, almost pleading. Why now? I whispered. Why after all this time? He hesitated, then reached into his pocket again. This time, he pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught as he opened it, revealing a glinting diamond ring. Because I never stopped loving you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. And I'm not letting you slip away again. The alley spun around me, the rain forgotten. Julian Hayes, my ex, the man who'd shattered my world, was offering me a job and a ring. I wanted to scream, to run, to fall into his arms. Instead, I stood there, frozen, as the weight of our past and the promise of a future collided in the dark. The next morning, I stood outside the gleaming glass tower of Horizon Ventures. The business card crumpled in my fist. I hadn't slept. My mind had replayed last night's encounter on a loop. Julian's voice, his eyes, that damn ring. Part of me wanted to throw the card into the nearest trash can and disappear. But another part, the part that still remembered his touch, pushed me through the revolving doors. The lobby was a cathedral of wealth, marble floors, chandeliers, people in suits who looked like they'd never known a hungry day. I felt like an imposter in my thrift store jacket. But the receptionist, a kind woman named Maria, smiled warmly when I showed her the card. Mr. Hayes is expecting you, she said, leading me to a private elevator that shot up to the 42nd floor. Julian's office was a world apart from the alley. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Manhattan's skyline, and a sleek desk held a single-framed photo, one I recognized instantly. It was us, 5 years ago, laughing at a Coney Island hot dog stand. My throat tightened. He'd kept it. Ethan, Julian said, rising from his chair. He looked different and daylightless, like a dream, more like a man carrying a burden. I'm glad you came. I almost didn't, I admitted, clutching the straps of my backpack. What is this, Julian? A job? A proposal? Or just some twisted way to ease your guilt? He flinched but didn't look away. It's a chance, he said. For both of us. The job is really need a writer for a campaign about second chances. Stories of people rebuilding their lives. You're perfect for it. And the ring. He paused, his voice softening. The ring is because I've spent 5 years regretting the day I walked away. I wanted to believe him, but trust was a fragile thing, and mine had been broken too many times. You left me, I said, my voice shaking. You chose your career over us. And now you think you can just fix it with a job and a ring. I was wrong, he said, stepping closer. I thought success would fill the hole you left, but it didn't. I'm not asking you to forget the past. I'm asking you to give me a chance to make it right. His words hit like a tidal wave, stirring emotions I'd buried long ago. I wanted to hate him, but the truth was, I'd never stopped loving him either. Still, I wasn't the naive kid he'd left behind. I need time, I said finally. And I'm not saying yes to anything, not the job. Not you. He nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Take all the time you need. The job's yours if you want it. And so am I. I spent the next week wrestling with Julian's offer. The job was a lifeline, decent pay, health insurance, a chance to write again. But it came with strings, and those strings were tied to a man who'd once torn my world apart. I couldn't shake the image of that ring, glinting like a promise I wasn't sure I could trust. I took the subway to Brooklyn, where I was crashing on a friend's couch. Lila, my oldest friend, was the only one who knew the full story of Julian and me. Over cheap coffee, I spilled everything: the alley, the job, the ring. Her eyes widened. Ethan, This is like something out of a rom-com. But you've got to be careful. People don't change that easily. I know, I said, stirring my coffee until it went cold. But he looked different. Like he meant it. Lila leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. You've been through hell, Ethan. You deserve more than someone trying to buy back your heart with a job and a shiny ring. What do you want? That question haunted me. What did I want? A part of me wanted to run back to Julian, to fall into the safety of his arms and pretend the last 5 years hadn't happened. But another part, the part that had survived eviction, hunger, and countless rejections, wanted to stand on my own. I wasn't sure I could do both. The next day, I showed up at Horizon Ventures, half expecting to bolt before the elevator doors opened. But I didn't. Julian greeted me with a cautious smile, leading me to a conference room where a small team waited. They were launching a campaign called Rebuild, spotlighting people who'd overcome hardship: veterans, single parents, recovering addicts. My job would be to write their stories, to give them a voice. It was the kind of work I'd always dreamed of doing, back when I still believed in dreams. You're a natural for this, Julian said after the meeting, his voice low as we stood by the windows. You've always had a way of seeing people, really seeing them. I wanted to snap back, to remind him he hadn't seen me when it mattered most. But his sincerity disarmed me, and for a moment, I let myself imagine what it would be like to work here, to be near him again. I'll try it, I said finally. But this is just a job, Julian. Nothing else. His face lit up, but he didn't push. Fair enough. Just let me know if you change your mind. The weeks that followed were a blur. I threw myself into the work, interviewing people whose stories broke my heart and pieced it back together. There was Marcus, a veteran who'd lost his leg but found purpose running a community center. And Sarah, a single mom who'd rebuilt her life after escaping an abusive marriage. Their resilience inspired me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. But Julian was always there, a quiet presence in the background. He'd bring me coffee during late-night writing sessions, his fingers brushing mine just long enough to spark memories I tried to suppress. He didn't push, didn't mention the ring again, but his eyes said everything his words didn't. It was maddening, the way he could still make my heart race with a glance. One night, after a long day, we ended up alone in the office. The city glittered outside, and the silence between us was heavy with unspoken words. Why didn't you call? I blurted out, unable to hold it in any longer. After you left, you didn't even try to reach me. Not once. Julian's face fell. He sat on the edge of the desk, his hands clasped tightly. I wanted to, he said. Every day, I wanted to. But I was ashamed. I knew I'd hurt you, and I thought you'd be better off without me. Better off. My voice rose, years of pain spilling out. I lost everything. Julian. My job, my home, my hope. And you were out there building your empire. While I stopped, choking on the words. I'm so sorry, he whispered, his voice breaking. He stepped closer, and this time, I didn't pull away. I was a coward. I thought I was chasing something bigger, but all I did was lose the only thing that ever mattered. His hand reached for mine, and I let him take it. His touch was warm, familiar, and for a moment, I was 22 again, believing in forever. But the moment passed, and I pulled back. I can't do this, I said. Not yet. He nodded, his eyes shining with unshed tears. I'll wait, Ethan. As long as it takes. The campaign consumed me. Writing those stories raw, human, real felt like rediscovering a part of myself I'd lost. I'd spend hours with my interviewees, listening to their triumphs and scars, then stay up late crafting their words into something that could inspire others. It was grueling, but it was also healing. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a purpose. Julian kept his distance. Mostly. He'd check in, offer feedback, or drop off a sandwich when I forgot to eat. But he didn't push, and I was grateful for that. Still, every interaction left me rattled, like I was walking a tightrope between the past and the present. I'd catch myself staring at him during meetings, remembering the way he used to hum off-key in the shower or steal fries from my plate. Those memories hurt, but they also reminded me why I'd loved him so fiercely. One evening, as I was finishing a draft, Maria from reception slipped into my office. "You know he talks about you," she said, her voice conspiratorial. "Mr. Hayes. He told me you were the one who got away." I laughed, brushing it off, but her words stuck with me. Was that what I was to Julian? The one who got away? Or was I just a reminder of his guilt? A project to fix so he could sleep better at night? The campaign's launch was a week away, and the pressure was mounting. I was working late again when Julian appeared, holding 2 tickets to a Broadway show. "Come with me," he said, his smile tentative. "Just as friends. You've been working yourself to death, and I miss you." I hesitated. A night out with Julian felt dangerous, like stepping too close to a flame. But I was tired of running from my feelings, so I said yes. The show was Hadestown, a story of love and loss that hit too close to home. Sitting next to Julian in the dark theater, our shoulders brushing, I felt the weight of everything we'd been and everything we could be. When Orpheus sang to Eurydice, I glanced at Julian and saw tears in his eyes. He reached for my hand, and this time, I didn't pull away. After the show, we walked through Times Square, the neon lights painting his face in shades of blue and red. I meant what I said, he told me, his voice barely audible over the city's hum. "I want you back, Ethan. Not just as a writer, not just as a friend. I want us." My heart pounded, but doubt crept in. "You don't know me anymore," I said. "I'm not the guy you left. I'm broken, Julian. I don't know if I can be what you want." "You're not broken," he said fiercely. "You're stronger than anyone I know. And I don't want you to be anything but you." His words cracked something open inside me, but I couldn't let go of the fear. "I need to think," I said, stepping back. I need to be sure." He nodded, his face a mix of hope and heartbreak. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Not this time." The campaign launch was a success. The stories I'd written were projected on screens in a packed auditorium, and the crowd's response tears. Applause. Standing ovations made my chest swell with pride. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd done something that mattered. Julian found me afterward, his smile brighter than the stage lights. "You were incredible," he said. "They loved it. I knew you would." I wanted to thank him, to tell him how much this job had saved me, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I just nodded, my eyes burning. Later, as the crowd thinned, he pulled me aside. "There's something else," he said, his voice nervous. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box again. "I know you said you need time, but I need you to know this is real. I'm all in, Ethan." I stared at the ring, my heart racing. Part of me wanted to say yes, to leap into his arms and forget the pain. But another part, the part that had clawed its way out of the dark, wasn't ready. "I can't," I said, my voice shaking. "Not yet." I need to find myself first. Julian, I need to know I'm enough on my own. His face fell, but he nodded. I understand, he said. But I'm not giving up. I'll wait. Months passed, and I threw myself into my work, building a life I could be proud of. The job at Horizon Ventures gave me stability, a small apartment, and a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I started writing again, not just for the campaign, but for myself. A novel, rough and unpolished, but mine. Every word felt like a step toward the person I wanted to be. Julian was still there, a constant in my life, but he respected my boundaries. We'd grab coffee sometimes, or he'd show up at my readings at a local bookstore, cheering louder than anyone. He didn't push, didn't mention the ring, but I saw it in his eyes, the hope, the love, the patience. It terrified me, but it also made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in years. One spring evening, I invited him to my apartment. It was small, nothing like his penthouse, but it was mine. We sat on my thrift store couch, drinking cheap wine, and I told him about my novel. He listened, his eyes bright, and when I finished, he said, "You're going to change the world, Ethan Carter." I laughed, but his words stayed with me. That night, as we stood on my tiny balcony overlooking the city, I realized something. I wasn't broken anymore. I was whole, not because of Julian, but because of me. I'd fought for this life, and I was proud of it. And for the first time, I felt ready to let someone in again. "Julian," I said, turning to him. "I don't know if I'm ready for forever, but I'm ready to try." His face lit up, and he pulled me into his arms, his embrace warm and steady. "That's all I've ever wanted," he whispered. He didn't pull out the ring, didn't need to. We both knew what this moment meant. The following year was a whirlwind. My novel got picked up by a small publisher, and Julian's campaign won awards, shining a light on stories that deserve to be heard. We took things slow, rebuilding trust one day at a time. There were fights, tears, and moments of doubt, but there were also quiet mornings, shared laughter, and the kind of love that grows stronger for having been tested. On a crisp autumn day, we walked through Central Park, the leaves crunching under our feet. Julian stopped by a fountain, his hand slipping into his pocket. This time, when he pulled out the ring, I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "Yes." As he slid the ring onto my finger, the weight of it felt like a promise not just of love, but of second chances, of resilience, of building something beautiful from the ashes of the past. We'd both been broken, both made mistakes, but together, we were whole. And as the park buzzed with life around us, I knew we'd write our own story, one of redemption, love, and the courage to start again.